TSP Weekly. This is your tech startup podcast for Thursday, July the 30th, 2015. Today we are recording once again at the Accelerator Center. I think this is our second or third time here.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a once again as much as it does welcome back.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
And we've somehow ended up picking a day when like every meeting room is booked at the Accelerator Center, so we're using some office space here for the recording. If we have some people randomly walking in,
we have some questions ready for them.
Yeah, it's all part of the spontaneous experience you get on our podcast. My name is Darren Conley. I'm a local tech entrepreneur here in Kitchener-Waterloo. Joining me, as always, is my wonderful co-host, fellow tech entrepreneur, Stephen Campbell. How are you today, Stephen?
I am the walrus.
Right.
Cuckoo, could That's
John Lennon? Quote?
Yeah, it's me, really.
Something like that?
I'm going to be eating some oysters because the world is my oyster. I'm about to graduate.
Excellent.
So I can't wait.
I was wondering where you were going with
now
all
you know.
that. Yeah, you're graduating. Okay.
How was the trip?
Yeah, fine.
Confusing?
I'm glad we arrived somewhere. What's the when do you actually graduate then?
So the end of August.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know when I throw my hat in the air with all the black-robed people.
Do people still do that?
I don't know. I hope not.
I was always so concerned that I would lose the hat the multiple times I graduated.
Yeah, I'm just really looking for something to dive my teeth into next. They can email me the certificate.
Dive your teeth into. I think that's the best mixed metaphor I've heard for a while.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
No, that's great.
Look forward to a couple more today.
Well, listen, let's introduce our guests. Joining us today, we have Mr. Harry Scanlan. Scanlan?
Yep.
I hope I said that right.
That's right.
And Ben Bittrolff. Joining us from Silqe.
Why were you laughing when you said Rolf?
Because that's not right.
Did I say it wrong? Bittrolff?
That's right.
Yeah,
Kind of right.
Something
Kinda
like
right.
that. I think I already mispronounced the name of the company as Silqe earlier today, but it's Silqe, S-I-L-Q-E.
Silqe.
Silqe, yes. Excellent. How are you guys doing?
Great.
Pretty good. I feel
Excellent.
like we're on the Howard Stern show here. I should be talking
Darren.
about how I went out with Lindsay Lohan last night.
Did you go out with Lindsay Lohan?
No, I
last
would
night?
tell you, though.
Oh, fair enough.
We should need
to know.
We'll call TMZ. Get
That's
some
right.
pics.
That's right. So Silqe, guys, it's a very intriguing name. And let's pretend that I haven't done any research about your company, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about
You're really
what you
asking
guys
them
do.
to stretch here.
I know.
Yeah, usually you start off by saying I went to your website and checked it out.
I usually do, and I did go to the website. I just didn't check it out as much as I should have.
And as soon as he saw financial analysis, he went,
I'm like, great.
falling
let's
asleep.
get
Oh, dear.
someone else
We're trying to
explain.
avoid that. That's part of our
it was a
thing.
very slick website for a financial analysis. I said, how do accountants make this look so good?
It's Silqe, not Slick, though.
Yeah, he's flipping.
Very slick.
We have that.com too. Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Did you have
I'm
that too?
just kidding.
Good.
Perfect.
Silqe slick. Yeah.
So yeah, tell us about Silqe. What do you guys do?
Sure. I mean, it
Yeah.
all started with a single question.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't I Google this? Followed by profanity.
Sure.
And so our mandate or mission is to make this stuff accessible. And yeah, we're talking about numbers and finance and accounting, which isn't too exciting.
What kind of stuff would I have not been able to find on Google that you guys would help me with?
Sure. I mean, if you're looking for Apple's revenue, when you Google that kind of information, you'll get other people's work. You'll get reports, links, anything but the original number. And if you do want that original number, you end up doing the boring accounting work of digging through income statements and balance sheets. When really, I mean, you just want the answer. What is it? Give it to me.
Right. Cool. And you guys provide those answers?
And that's what we do.
Cool. So what are some examples of things that I might be able to find with you guys that I wouldn't typically be able to find, apart from Apple's revenue? I mean, yeah.
So, I mean, just to zoom out a bit, it's an open data platform. So we grab all types of information of that nature, and it's the original stuff. So it's the reliable stuff on the net. You can scrape information, you can hunt for info from other people, but you can't rely on it. This is from the original authors of the data.
And so you guys are doing the scraping yourself, or do you have relationships with those?
So yeah, it's
people
not scraping,
Yeah?
which
Okay.
is what Ben was trying to get across. Because
Okay.
it's the first thing that people ask is, you guys scrape this data, but
You guys have obviously broken right into the IRS.
clearly that's clear, right? Exactly. We can't tell you the secrets. That's why we're around. But yeah, no. So it's not scraped, but it's part of this structured data that is part of this Open Data Act that we can pull in right from the original filers, like being Apple, Google, Exxon, whatever, right? So we know that the data is valid.
How do you know that? Does it like have an authentication certificate on it or something like that?
Essentially, yeah. So like the data is filed with, for an American company, for example, it's filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission.
Yep.
So that's the SEC.
Yeah.
So it's just as bad as if you didn't file your taxes. These companies have to file these items in this, so we know that it's accurate. If they don't, they would probably end up in jail or whatever.
And does the SEC make that data, like, is it open source for anybody to access?
They make it available,
Okay.
but it's not easily available or comparable or searchable.
And
Okay.
that's where the magic happens.
Right, exactly.
Gotcha. And
Is that your tagline?
Well, it is now.
so walk me through, if I was thinking to myself, I'd really like to find out what Google's quarterly numbers were for I don't know, last quarter 2014. What would I do to get that information? I show up on your website, then what?
So it's great that you
Yeah.
worded it like that.
Okay.
So we have like a natural language type search where you can type a question like that, and you can actually specifically get those items, and then you can narrow it down further. So like, say you just want not just the income statements and balance sheets for that quarter, you just want revenue, liabilities, assets. You can ask it that as well.
Okay,
And
so I can type it just like I would type any other question. What is Google's financial?
We have an
statements for
autocomplete function, so like
okay.
it has to be somewhat specific because accounting terms. We try not to make it boring, but it still has to be
Yeah.
accounting type terms. But you can type stuff like that, and then you can be like, go one step further. Ask, hey, show me all companies that have assets greater than $1 billion, and it will hit an entire database of that subset of information.
neat.
And what am I seeing when I get the results returned? Is it just like a bunch of numbers up on a page and text? Can I see charts or
Company logos?
Comparisons or something?
I just spilled my coffee everywhere.
Oh, sorry, man.
We're getting
we
sued
get so
now.
excited on the podcast.
Totally.
I hope it wasn't too hot.
Let's just sue someone. I'll let Ben answer that.
Yeah, sure.
While
he
you
fixes
towel
it.
off.
Fix my
Rearranges
my
a
series.
little bit.
Sorry, man.
No, so the data is immediately available in rows and columns.
Oh, okay, cool.
It looks like a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
From there, you can immediately throw it into a spreadsheet, but you can also view it in charts and graphs, so the visualization function. And the other point is from there, you can rearrange the data so you can organize it quickly and easily.
Oh, cool.
If you're asking these questions, you usually get a big result back from which you want to narrow it down continuously.
Sure.
So can you guys describe to me who is your perfect customer? Who is the guy that's like, thank goodness this thing's here because I can use this on a daily or weekly basis?
Right. So it's the individuals, the people that are working with numbers anyways currently, and spending most of their time manually grabbing this information, looking through it physically, right? Reading those statements, pulling that information out. The other set of people have to wait or use expensive platforms, whether they're Bloomberg and Reuters platforms or business intelligence platforms within the organization. This then makes it more accessible to a wider audience as well. So it democratizes the access.
So have you found that it's sort of a CFO level, or are you looking for like a data analyst level, or
Analysts, accountants,
everybody?
absolutely
Come
everyone.
on in,
Biz
jump
dev
in.
guys.
Basically, yeah.
Random people.
The idea
Yeah.
was to make it not only useful for like my mother to use, like the type in the natural language search, but also the professional CFO or whoever on that end, or a hedge fund and stuff like that.
So that's a good point, actually. The other aspect of this is not just the front end, is the API. So what we're doing is, as a platform, aggregating all this data. So putting it into one place so it's accessible to everyone, either via an API or the front end, which is this Google-like interface.
Okay.
Right. So it's as easy to use as Google, and that's the point, because we're already dealing with complicated, boring numbers. Let's
Sure.
not make the whole process worse.
So in theory, I could have an app that I built myself that's accessing through your API, accessing that data, importing it to my app, and then doing something else with it.
Well, we have a good example
Oh,
of
yeah.
that.
Right.
You guys didn't do the fold versus scrunch app, did you?
No, no. But here, oh, yeah, got to turn on your phone on. But speaking of this
Yeah.
type of things, apps or whatever, yeah, we can build whatever, or someone can build off of our API,
Sure.
import it into their systems, whether it's an app or like a whole ERP system or whatever.
Right.
But one of the things that I want to demonstrate when Ben gets it up, which
Yeah.
will be like 5 minutes.
No
Wow,
problem.
that's a long refraction period.
Yeah, well, you should
what are
look
you
at his
trying
screen.
Well, I wonder, just as we're kind of getting that up, if this is something that, like, even companies can. Trying to think of how to word it, right? Like, if you're working in the accounting department of a company, like, if it might be easier to go through your system to kind of put stuff together for your own numbers than it would be to dig through your own database.
Absolutely. So, like, I
good
mean,
idea.
we can touch on that in a minute too.
Sure.
But the idea is to have a single place for
Right.
this data to be accessible.
Right.
So, your example when you said, I want to see 2014 revenue Apple, right?
Yeah.
So that will take you 5 or 10 minutes to get from Google because you'd have to go find the blog post that they talked about it, then confirm it with the SEC. But let's say you want 15, 13, 12, 11
Right.
of Google or of Apple, and then you also want all 5 of those for Google. You can imagine if it takes 10 minutes for one and you want 10 things, it takes you forever. So
Yeah.
that exact situation that I just described, we can do in milliseconds.
Wow.
So that's the idea behind that.
Sure.
So maybe
awesome.
Ben,
That's
you know what I was getting at with that, right?
We have someone struggling.
Someone's struggling with the
Somebody's
door.
locked out of the office here.
Yeah.
Trying to get in the door.
Should we go tell them?
Oh, here they're in. We're
Welcome to work.
Yeah, totally.
good. Crazy.
As they run
Okay.
by.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
At
Listen to
Startup
TSP
Space.
Weekly.
Excellent. All right. So yeah, show us what you got.
Well,
there.
here's a simple example.
Yeah.
If I ask Siri,
Yes.
what is Apple's revenue?
I can't get revenue. My apologies.
Right?
Oh.
So
Right.
the
Siri's so disappointed.
Hopefully
on so many
everybody
levels.
heard that. I don't know how loud it was in the recording, but yeah, Siri apologized for not being able to provide
She can't get
revenue.
that revenue.
No.
well, Siri should really know what is Apple's revenue. I mean,
Siri should. Yeah.
there's all sorts of other data that Siri can find for you, and it's very useful information. Now, this sounds deceptively simple.
Right.
I mean, why wouldn't it know what is Apple's revenue? Well, there has to be a single platform, single standard, and a single API from which to pull this information to make it
Yeah,
easy
sure.
to get. And that really doesn't exist in a good, accessible way.
Right.
And although we've been talking entirely about, say, corporate finance, this is really about open data. It's about everything. So another example is we've pulled in all the data for Kitchener-Waterloo and Cambridge, all the operating budgets, the capital expenditures. I mean, you can ask how much money is being spent on fire services,
Sure.
compare the cities, and even
Could I
compare
compare like the mayor's salaries from each
Absolutely,
city or something
everything.
like
Which-
that? Yeah.
Not, but like even
Yeah.
the expenditures of Kitchener Waterloo.
Yeah.
So I'm the tech of this FinTech company.
Right.
Ben's the Fin, right? Financial technology. So I'm like putting in grabbing the data, and then I just do my own query. I'm like, holy crap! How are we spending so much money on this? And then Ben's like, don't look at it or you'll peak. just program the stuff.
But it's a pretty good sign that you've got something worth using. If you're
Absolutely.
dinking around on your own system and being like, "Whoa, this is crazy!"
Right?
So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
The monsters that lurk in big data.
Yes, exactly.
And the value expands, or the value you can get out of it expands, the more data sets you add to it. So in our case, in that city example, we threw in population data sets as well. And now you're calculating per capita numbers to really compare these cities, for
Sure.
example, right?
So if I can just ask, in theory, when you showed us the Siri example there, could Siri be made to connect through your API to your data and then have that kind of ready access that is not available now?
Absolutely,
All this information?
and that's the point too with the API. There are other platforms, whether they're just dashboards or full systems, business intelligence platforms that could consume this data through our API, merge it or integrate it with proprietary local data sets that a large enterprise might collect as well.
Right.
For example, a bank was going to collect a lot of information on its customers, and then have the seamless convergence of two data sets.
Sure. So can I just assume then that the kind of limits to the data that are part of your system are like publicly traded companies and like public, I don't know what you call them, like the municipalities or governmental
That's
organizations.
the first thing that we've got.
Okay.
However,
Yeah.
we also do private data sets.
Okay.
So there's a few cases where, say, you're in a department in a company like Linamar, for example,
Yep.
and you have several low departments that are working in spreadsheets because they'll never change that.
Yep.
and you have your head CFO, and he wants to run a report. But so right now they will email all their spreadsheets to this guy, and then he'll make his own spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So one of our use cases is that these people can use our Excel plugin. It automatically dumps into our system, and the guy will just go, or the CFO or whoever it is, will go into our thing and say, show me the hours that we spent on making widget XYZ and this month and this year. So
He doesn't have to talk to Siri, though, does he?
No, he does not, which is great.
And is that something that's done through the web platform, or is that something that they would have like a private installation of the software?
Exactly, yeah. So some companies, just like you're thinking, are very safeguarded about their data.
Yeah.
So we can also make an instance that you can just put on their own network.
Gotcha.
For their private data, it's completely secure.
Interesting. And is that part of your business model then, making kind of private instances
Yeah,
of your
definitely.
algorithm? Yeah.
Yeah, well, because one of the value adds there is as this data floats around in a company as an email attachment, as a spreadsheet, it doesn't add to the corporate memory, to history, right? There's no single repository, no single database for this stuff, and it's not optimized for search, for discovery.
Right.
So by having a low-touch method of getting this information into the database,
Yep.
it becomes available throughout the entire organization, perpetually available.
Sure.
What we actually
Yeah.
found out was, so say Apple is filing and Exxon is filing.
Yep.
Well, there's actually 57 different terms for revenue.
Right.
So I know that revenue is the thing, but I don't know that Exxon has one called oil and gas revenue, right?
Right.
So we designed an algorithm that allows it to become revenue, and you can drill in and see what the actual line was. But the point of that is that I don't have to care if I want to just see Apple's revenue and Exxon's revenue. I can compare the two now.
Right.
So similar process for these spreadsheets.
Yeah.
Jimbo in Department A might call whatever his widget time, whatever time date.
Yeah.
And Jane would call it date time.
Right.
So you can't necessarily compare them, but our system will grab them both, make sure they're the same, and then the top level guy will see it.
Can be able
Like
to
a
compare
third-
apples to apples. and
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a whole layer of normalization.
Oh, man, I was just going to say that.
We all know that you know the
That was my
yeah.
big talking point, but I just learned it. That's the big
Oh,
exciting thing.
okay.
You
Cool,
guys might
cool.
have known about normalization to the third level in databases for a while, but Conestoga College is still trying to get me to understand that stuff. So I get excited when I'm like, I think I know what they're talking about right now.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it's pretty exciting
I'm
stuff.
sure there's a joke somewhere to be made about normalization and us, but we won't get into
the
that
third
right
level.
now. Maybe, yeah, sure. Very cool. So, you're dealing with all this money. Where does the money happen for you? How do you guys make money using this service or running the service?
Great lead in, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. I had that queued up for a little while. I was just waiting to, yeah.
Show Darren the money.
Yes, that's right.
No, sure. So monetization is software as a service, a subscription-based model.
Yep,
Those are
okay.
seat licenses or site licenses. And then, of course, the API is separate. It's a tier-based model. The more you hit the API, you go through tiered pricing models.
So is there a free level at all, or is there always a subscription involved?
No, right
In
now,
some way,
right
yeah.
now there is a freemium model, and we're moving the paywall to determine where do you create that, the paywall.
Gotcha. So I could go to your site right now and for free
Yeah.
dig through some of this information.
If we like you.
Yeah.
So how did you
Please,
guys
yeah.
how'd you guys determine how much to charge for the lemonade?
or
you
is
do
that still being worked out?
25 cents, and then you saw, okay, we sold 4.
Services that you can purchase
Yeah.
or subscribe to for this data. The limits they give you are what differentiate us from them. And so you could always use a Bloomberg terminal, right? You can always buy data from facts that are Cap IQ if you're talking. This is strictly financial data.
Yeah.
Then the larger open data sets, there aren't even, at this point, good services that offer those in a way that makes consumption easy for you.
Sure.
So we have reference points for, the existing big platforms.
What the
And then
market's charging.
the goal, though, is to democratize the access to this data. So we set a price point then that becomes very accessible. And the point too isn't to remove those original platforms from the equation. Is to
Right.
provide information and access to everyone who couldn't get to those platforms in the first place.
Sure. And there's a time saving factor as well that you talked about, right?
Oh, absolutely.
If it's spending 3 hours or spending several milliseconds, I mean, that's a real savings for any company.
Definitely.
to cut
Right.
that
If
out, right?
you have an 8-hour day and you're sitting in your cubicle spending most of your time just hunting this information down so you could build your model in your spreadsheet, saving 2 hours a day, that becomes a real ROI calculation you can make.
Sure.
And so that's how we base, the value prop.
And it's not just about
Yeah.
being fast,
Yeah.
but also having quantified or qualified data. So you have to actually prove that these numbers are correct. Otherwise, you could throw off your entire model, right?
Right.
So with our system, you can actually go back to the original source, like we talked about at the start, and confirm the number is accurate without actually doing the research to get that number.
Gotcha.
It's like raspberries.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's like raspberries.
Yeah, well, they're free. You can go pick them, but you don't know if there's pesticides on them. So you just go to Zehrs and you buy a pint of raspberries, and you're assured that they're safe and that they're good for you.
I'm so
Makes
glad
sense.
you've brought back the wacky
That's what I was
analogies, man.
thinking.
That's exactly what I
I've
thought.
missed the wacky analogies in the last few episodes.
Yeah.
So you've made me
Harry's
happy.
nodding his head. He gets it.
Yeah, of course.
Everyone can see.
Well, I think this is a great time to take a brief break.
Speaking of raspberries,
Yeah, that's right. And talk about Igloo, our sponsor for this episode.
I wonder if they had raspberry cake because they just had cake recently.
They did. And
Yeah.
why did they have cake?
Because they've moved. They're moving on up.
Moving to new offices.
Yep.
We love their old office. We're excited to see their new office. We're waiting for an invite to the big open house party for the new office.
You've been checking your mailbox every day.
I have
know.
been. I have been. But let's talk a little bit about what Igloo actually does, because I think that's probably more interest to our listeners, right?
Sure.
So Igloo Software, they build a intranet solution that companies can use for managing all of their inter-office communication and staying organized and keeping on top of the day-to-day business of things.
It gives you the flexibility to get the work you want done when you want and how you want.
Yep.
On whatever device you want.
Yes, and because it's a web-based service, then any device that runs a browser, you can run Igloo software on, right?
Right. It's not 1997 anymore.
Right.
It's 2015, and Igloo is very much aware of that.
Exactly, which is great. I'm reading through some of these other talking points.
Do you know what kind of stack Igloo has?
I don't know. Tell me about their stack.
They're an HTML .NET, HTML5, but they're a .NET shop.
Yeah.
MVC5, SQL Server 2014,
How do you know all this, Steven?
JavaScript, because it's written down in front of me.
Really? I can't find it on my page.
I know.
I must have the you must have the premium version. and I
CSS3,
have the less premium version.
Visual
Right.
Studio 2013, Git, and Nerf, and I still don't know what Nerf is. I don't think that's the guns they're talking about.
Right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Do you guys use Nerf?
Guns.
Excellent.
Well, let's just say Igloo. I think it's a great product to try, and they're great people to work with and work for. If you're looking for an intranet platform for your company, or if you're looking for a company to work for, they're always looking for talented developers over there. So
Yeah, if you're a local
yeah.
developer in school at all, and you like the .NET stuff and
Yep.
the MVC5, definitely check them out because they're growing and
Yep.
they
And-
got it going on.
And there's a link on the TSP website, tspweekly.com. On the top right corner, you can go and check out Igloo and see if it's the kind of place you want to work for. So
So please save Darren a slice of raspberry cake. He'll be there any minute now.
Can we come to the party?
I think
We'll-
they'd be happy to have you guys. Yeah.
we'll work our connections and see what we
All
can
right,
do.
sounds good.
So let's
Maybe you bring the cake, and that's how you get in, right?
Sounds good.
Let's dive back into things. We are, once again, to remind all our listeners, we are talking today with Harry Scanlan and Ben Bittrolff from Silqe. I don't know. I have this phobia about name mispronunciation because I've done it so many times now. And now every time I say a name, like I can't do it without a smirk on my face.
Yeah, I listened to your WeMesh one. It was
Right.
pretty funny.
I can't remember the names of those guys. I remember their faces, but and I remember the product. It's a great product.
I remember the shock of their face when you tried to pronounce their name.
Good times. Good times.
Anyway,
Let's so let's dive in a little bit to into the history of Silqe. Like, you guys don't look like you're necessarily straight out of university.
I didn't shave today.
No, fair enough. Me neither.
His
Actually,
cherub baby face is not at its best. But so, yeah, how did the Finn and the tech meet?
yes.
That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, this is my second startup, and Harry's second as well.
Oh, cool. Can we ask what the first startups were?
Sure,
Just to get a piece of the history here.
I was co-founder of Cyborg Trading Systems, an AC company actually.
Oh, cool.
It's up on the wall as
Yeah.
a graduated AC company.
That would be a really cool logo to design.
What was the name?
Cyborg Trading Company.
Cyborg
Yeah,
Trading.
it
That's
was.
true.
It was a really cool logo.
CTC.
And for those listening who didn't put it together, AC is short for Accelerator Center. This is the organization we're in their building right now. Okay, sorry. What did Cyborg Trading do?
It was an algorithmic trading platform, so it was all about finance and trading assets, stocks, bonds, futures.
Was it one of these like microtrade platforms? Could I do microtrades on it?
It was an algorithmic platform, so a low latency trading platform. So how fast can you trade?
Right.
So I can buy the Bordeaux futures before you can.
Right. Well, you got to
If
buy
you're into wine.
But a lot. I know with these microtrades, it's a lot of like buying and selling within milliseconds of each transaction. You're just capitalizing on the few cents here and there, right?
Exactly.
Cool. And so are they still around or?
Yeah, so we built that
Okay.
from 2008 till 2014.
Okay.
And again, through the Accelerator Center, we grew that company from 3 of us in the basement to 20 full-time employees.
And what level were you on there? Ground floor or
Yeah,
third,
I was the
third floor?
founder
or-
of the company and
Wow.
That's awesome.
And is the company still there? And
we
you're here?
acquired in 2014
Oh, I
by
see.
a Toronto-based firm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And was that an exit strategy that you guys had implemented from the beginning, or was that an opportunity that came up as you guys were trugging along?
No, that was an opportunity that came up.
Okay.
But you weren't trugging along. I guess.
Yeah.
No. Very cool. And then what about yourself, Harry?
Yeah,
What-
so
what
I'm
was your first
the
startup?
tech portion of this, as I was saying.
Yeah.
I was a partner in a company called Speakfeel.
Oh, Speakfield, yes,
they're
of course.
they're in Guelph. I think they're at the Innovation Guelph.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
one of you
And-
guys are there, aren't
And
you?
we did
Yeah.
interview them on, if I had my list of past episodes, I could tell you, but we did interview them somewhere in the 20s or 30s.
Sure.
Yeah, we had Kelly and
Episode
Mark on from
Yes.
Speakfield.
Yep.
That was Monday, March 30th at noon.
Oh,
So we
there
probably
we
put it
go.
on a couple
Steve-
days after that.
Steven's got our schedule in front of him, so yeah.
So
No,
I was
that was
I
from memory,
ground level
Darren.
there. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, right. I was ground level there. I was partner in the company.
Very cool.
Kelly Brooks started it,
Yep.
and we grew it. I think it was about 6 or 7 guys right when I left,
Okay.
and so we were doing client work there, and we were doing product as well. So
Right.
we created a product called Joe Moby at the time,
Okay.
which allowed you to convert your blog to an app, like a native app.
Interesting.
And we did a Microsoft deal, and we put 400 apps into their app store when they brought out the new Windows Phone a few years ago, which was
Wow.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then I got really into product stuff, and I met Ben.
Mm-hmm.
I was hanging out at the Hub in
Okay.
Kitchener.
In Communitech?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, give us
And-
the I met Ben story. What kind of
Yeah,
over, you guys run together?
Yada
over
yada
a
yada.
field of
I had the
flowers?
cream bisque. Yeah, well, we met at like one of a meetup that the Hub or like the AC put on.
Sure.
It was over beers, basically.
Just a
Good.
networking
What-
commingle
Yeah,
kind
totally.
of thing.
Was it Hacker's Nest?
No, it was.
No?
I don't know. It was just like random, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so. But it would have been something like.
Yeah, it was
Sure,
like that.
sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
No
Okay.
poker was involved.
No.
No.
It was
Not
mostly
that
just alcohol.
Yeah, of course. Some
No,
of the,
but-
some of the greatest partnerships happen over alcohol.
Yeah, absolutely. absolutely. So Ben was telling me about Cyborg and his experiences, and I was telling him about Speakfeel, and then he was telling me about this idea. He's like, "Do you want to check it out?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And we kind of just hooked up from there and got along.
Very cool. And maybe should ask this of Ben then. Like, what was the genesis of Silqe?
Well, it really was one sentence. Why can't I Google this stuff?
Right.
So with Cyborg, we're dealing a lot with data, and it was a specific kind for trading purposes.
Right.
And it became apparent to me that other data sets were not easily accessible. And, there's a lot of profanity involved when you have to go hunt it down yourself and grab it and manipulate it and just get it into the format that you want it in.
Yeah.
And that's where open data, too, and all the open data movements, because this is a global thing that's going on. I mean, there's a big push from all levels of government on a global, scale to make data more transparent and available in a structured format. So this is, ongoing and happening now. And because of our background or my background, financial data, is the most valuable and the most aggressively consumed. I mean, every decision a business makes fundamentally is based on some sort of metric or some sort of data they collected, and it always ties into something financial.
Sure. So is it safe to say this is a problem you encountered when you were doing
Yeah.
your previous startup that now you are solving with the
Yeah.
newer startup, right? Which I think is really cool, actually. That one startup can kind of spawn another
Totally.
as you're encountering new problems in the same field.
Well,
right?
that's
Yeah.
part of why I came on too from the technical side.
Yep.
This is actually a really big problem.
Sure.
And that's why I like to solve problems.
Of
I
course.
make problems usually,
Create
but
problems.
I usually solve them better than I create them.
Sure.
But
Is
so
that
from
coffee coming out of those pants?
yeah, well, that's just
Speaking of solving problems.
Listen, you're lucky I'm wearing pants.
Actually,
enough.
Ben's,
If I knew it was just radio, I
Ben's
would've-
probably lucky too.
It's true.
no doubt.
No, and that's another thing I've noticed just in my own kind of hanging out in startup circles and talking with a lot of developers is it's usually like the intriguingness, the level of interest that the problem generates is what ends up grabbing developers' attention, right?
Sure.
Because you guys, experienced developers, can kind of do whatever they want out there these days.
Yeah, definitely.
But the question is, how can you
Why?
find something you want to
Or
do?
how,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, the problem you want to solve. Very cool. And so you guys decided you were going to work together. What was the next step after that? Did you go and incorporate the next day, or how did it go?
Market research time, or
Well,
Yeah.
Ben had basically came up with this before I joined, so maybe you can talk about
Yeah.
that a little
Sure.
bit.
you've been
No,
kicking
I
around
mean,
for a while?
I put the idea together, but like any good idea, you need the right mix of people to even begin to execute on it.
Sure.
Right. So in my case, I needed a real technical component,
Mm-hmm.
and so the first thing I did is started looking for the person that can begin to solve the problems that I saw, in the execution of this idea. So that's how I crossed paths with Harry. But
Yeah.
yeah, literally we did go and get all the paperwork started, and I mean,
Yeah.
you have to dot your I's and cross your T's, especially if you've been around the block once. You know how long some of this stuff can take or how
Sure.
complicated things can get. So we sat down and put everything together.
So what's the timeline then? Of how long have you been around the block? Like when did that happen? When you guys the spark happened and
Well,
the
yeah, and
paperwork
how
flew?
long after the buyout before you made the connection and started working on this one?
Yeah, how long did you take off?
Well, by off like 2 days, and
Really?
You slacker!
That happened fast.
well, then it immediately you just start sitting around, and actually we tossed around a lot of different ideas too.
In 2 days.
No, that was from after 2 days and right up till all roads led to dealing with this data.
Right.
I mean, so although we started off with lots of concepts, everything ended up revolving around working with data in one way or another.
Sure.
And nobody from Cyborg came with you? Like that team didn't transform into another team?
We do have 2 former employees of the previous company now
Yep.
Okay.
working with us.
Did you steal them?
No,
There's no terms in the acquisition deal that says you guys aren't allowed to work on financial products or something?
well, you can't build a trading platform,
Okay.
but working with raw data is not
That was cool.
in the same vein.
Sure.
It's really neat.
And it sounds like maybe this new thing that you built could be something that
Complementary.
the people who bought out your previous company can now pay you to make use of, right?
Yeah.
Potentially.
I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a very evil laugh. It's like a money laugh there.
But that's the way it has to go, right? All
No,
the
people
pieces-
think that, but people come to us.
Yeah.
And we didn't go out to people. They find it interesting.
Sure.
So like we have, you can look on our LinkedIn. We have a developer that worked at Speakfield. They came to us because
Sure.
they found that we were interesting. This is a problem that needs to be solved.
Yeah.
So that's how, again, the cyborg stuff worked.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
Very
good to
cool.
note, like talking about second time around, it's a lot faster the second time because you know what you should do.
Right.
Shareholders agreements very important. If you're a startup, you probably people don't know that. If you're young, 25 or whatever, starting even 20s,
Yeah.
you have to have all this stuff in place, insurance, and like if you're dealing with big corporate stuff, or you even want to make a sale, you got to make sure like your data is insured and all of that stuff.
Yeah,
Right.
the worst thing that can happen is a big sale comes in before you have any paperwork.
Exactly. Yeah. Or even
We have
what
money
if,
now. What do we do?
Or what if
Yeah.
you get an investor in and you don't have your documents in order? Then
Right.
they're not going to invest. So anything you want to take away that pain point, you should have in place if you can.
Sure.
But that's
Absolutely.
AC, the hub, stuff like that. Innovation Guelph, they help you do that. But even with that help, it's still second time around is much better.
So second time around, did you guys have some mentors on your Rolodex on the short list that you wanted to call, and instead of sort of saying help us, you were like, I want you to help me?
Yeah, it definitely helps knowing the the interests and the skill sets of various people in the community, and having had the time to build up a network of people. I mean, it's easier than trying to approach strangers constantly, right?
Are there any mentors or folks at the AC or around town that you want to like throw a shout out to that might have been helping you guys get on your feet with this? Or?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we work with Steve Curry at the Hub. He's been a great mentor, a great help.
Very cool.
Locally here at the AC, we couldn't have done it with the mentors and the EIRs that come through, right down to sitting down and going through our UI and user experience. Right, it's you get someone for everything.
And Andrew Jackson's been super helpful for us. I definitely recommend him for sure.
Awesome.
So that's one of my questions is, how does the financial guy and the tech guy sit down and do their marketing and their branding? How'd you come up with Silqe? How did you... Silqe.
Yeah, we didn't even ask about the name.
So how did that come about? Like, that's something that's interesting to me.
Yeah.
The name is about trying to get a URL that's not taken.
I think we could do a whole episode on the topic of finding a URL that's not taken, because a lot of people find that same issue.
I got to go get MERP.
Yeah.
MERP.com.
It's going to be taken by the time we post the podcast.
You ever watch Silicon Valley when they're trying to come up with a name?
Yeah.
That's great.
Did you?
That's it.
It's quite literally like that.
Did you ever see that Saturday Night Live skit? It was like near the beginning of the internet, like maybe late 90s or early 2000s. And there's like some insurance company in the sketch that's like, we tried to find a good website for our insurance company, and all the names were taken. So for all of your insurance needs, you can find us at www.clownpenis.fart. Something like this.
That extension probably exists.
Yeah, I wonder. The only URL for
Great, now that's taken too.
The whole commercial was them like as this deadly serious kind of insurance company, but like it was just the URL was this crazy.
Bum, 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 bum.
Yeah. Anyway,
There's so many domains, like fart or whatever. I bought like harry.escort, just in case.
And it's crazy how
you never know, Harry.
Right?
You
And
never
they're
know.
always trying to I find the domain companies are trying to push you on these new domain extensions all the time. I have my own company. They said, we've automatically registered you at my company's website is Tiriam, Tiriam. I have the .com, but they're like, we automatically register you for the .xyz.
Right, yeah.
.xyz.
I bought that too.
And I'm like, XYZ. And
totally useless.
And now they're sending me all these emails saying, you're going to lose the domain if you don't. And I'm like, I don't really want it in the first place. So.
Yeah, I'll buy it for $3 later.
That's right. Eh?
IO
That's
seems
when you
pretty...
have the harrysescort.com?
No, I think I have XYZ and I have Actor, just in case, Lindsay Lohan thing.
Right. Do you have any IOs?
I don't. I was just saying that IO seems to be pretty popular now.
Yeah, it's like the startup
with the tech
thing.
companies.
Yeah.
That's the IO thing. Okay, so sorry. So Silqe, you just landed on it because it was available, or
There's a couple things.
I mean, we said this startup is going to go really smoothly.
so
it's going to be like Silqe. The QE at the end, query engine.
Yeah.
So kind of stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
That's very geeky.
I like that.
Yeah, we nerded it up a bit.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Sorry, my brain was off on a different track with the spelling of the QE. But anyway.
So did you guys so in the process of that, you're then just sitting, because I've gone through some naming sort of brainstorming sessions with some of the mentors at Innovation Guelph. Hey, Steve Barrett. And it's really interesting, right? Yeah. So for us, it was more of who are we, how are we branding ourselves? And it wasn't a run to the internet to check. So you go through that process, and then you find 5 that you like, then you get down to 2. So you run it at 5, or give me a little bit more about how, it was just going to be a smooth process, and there was a little geek in there.
Or what was on the whiteboard.
Yeah, what else was a contender?
I don't remember all the stuff that was on the whiteboard, but I can tell you this, the stuff that was on the whiteboard was all taken.
Right.
Really?
Right?
So it was really hard to be original.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's why you got to make up words.
Yeah.
And to get, some of them are available, but they'll cost you.
Right.
Yeah.
5-letter domain names are almost like $50,000. Easily.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I
right
wondered,
now.
if
they're words.
I bet you there's. I wish I could ask your website this, but I wonder like how many domain names are out there just being squatted on that will never ever be used for anything. Like I bet you something like 90% of the 5-letter domain names are just
Squatting.
sat on by squatters, and nothing will ever come of them, and they're waiting for their $100,000 purchase.
There you go, Harry. He's thrown down the gauntlet.
And
Harry's Escorts.
meanwhile, there's all these companies. They're like, damn it, if I could only get a domain.
That's right.
If only Harry would release the escort domain.
I saw HTML.com the other day was for sale, and it's 7 figures right now.
I bet.
Yeah, it's still in a bidding thing. But
Sorry, did you say you got harryescort.com?
Harry.escort.
Oh,
no, I don't. I was just kidding. But I was just that was.
Sorry, it just
We kind of ran with it,
something
though.
clicked in my brain. I'm like,
Yeah,
Harry,
I've been
I wish
talking
I'd
about
never-
it for like 10 minutes.
Now I'm gonna have to register that now.
I bet you there's somebody who's willing to pay money for Harry Escort.
Yeah. I'd like to run that through his website.
I dare you to Google it. I dare you to Google that right now.
After the podcast, I'm going to Google that one.
Yeah.
That's-
I don't know if I want escorts named Harry, though. It's kind of
and I'd also be a little afraid
Depends how you
what's going
spell
to
it.
come up. I might, if I hit image search by accident.
That's
you
what I'm
never know.
saying.
Yeah,
quite a double entendre, the Harry's Escorts thing.
Yeesh.
Nothing
Yes,
good
it's
can
true.
come of
This
this.
is
It could
way
just be a
off topic
Sasquatch
now.
Yeah,
hunting
we're
company.
totally on a tangent here.
Yeah.
Okay, so your name, you settled the name, that's great. And then how long ago are we now in the timeline that you guys have got
Quicker,
the company formed?
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is from November and December of last year.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
So
yeah.
not too long ago.
That's
Yeah,
not too
and
bad.
then
And what has happened then in the meantime since November, December last year up till now? Has the team grown? Are you?
You got a speak feel, you got a couple
Yeah.
cyborgs.
yeah, we got 5 full-time employees.
Yeah.
So and to do that, you have to raise some money.
Sure.
So we
done
raised
some
seed round.
Yeah.
And from November and December onwards, we began building out the technology, and that, was a trial and error process as well as we refined how we're tackling the problem and refined what exactly we're solving too. So there's a lot of evolution happening at that point.
And how long was it till you had something up on the web that people could actually use and it was functional and you could get real data back? Would you say?
It's been an iterative process for sure.
Sure. Okay.
So I mean, in order to get like seed round stuff like that, you need like a proof of concept, obviously.
Sure.
So,
sure.
but we've just been growing it since then. So maybe the first set of information wasn't that accurate. Now we have really accurate data. So I would say it's always been ongoing.
Okay.
So like when you guys yourself tech guys, you build something and you throw it online as a little proof of concept, but it evolves.
Right.
So it wasn't like we worked on it for 4 months straight and then threw it up and it worked.
Okay.
It never works like that, right?
Sure.
So,
sure.
but
What's that
Yeah.
process of, for a lot of companies, a lot of most startups, you guys, this is your second round, when they say, oh yeah, we get the seed round and 5 employees and off we go. Like, what do you mean? Like, how did you get the seed round? Like, is that a venture capitalist? Is that an angel? Was that an accelerator center contact? Did you do a pitch event? Or
Were
like,
you
how
able
did
to
the...
leverage your past successes?
talk about that initial seed round, because a lot of people have an idea, they built something, they have some traction.
Sure.
Their mother and a neighbor says it's good. So,
it's a good question and it's a difficult one to answer.
Yeah.
what was your story?
Well, I can say what my experience is or what our experience is. It evolves around an investor picking the team. I mean, sure, they're going to look at your idea or the problem you're solving, but at that stage, that early, the bet is mostly on a couple individuals.
Yeah.
Right. So let's say there's 2 or 3 founders. The real bet is on the founders.
Sure.
So you
because
need
it all becomes-
founder fanboys. That's really what we're looking for.
And how did you get the ear of those people? Like, was it through your connections in the AC in different places here, or did you know some VCs already and you called them up and said, "Hey, can we pitch for you?" Or how did these
Yeah,
conversations
it's
happen?
you have to turn over every rock. You have to go and meet everyone that you can find, and you have to then determine who's the right type of investor for you. So it's not about getting a check. I mean, the money you absolutely need, but you need the value that the person can provide in behind that. At that early stage, you really need additional value. So
Sure.
you need someone with, say, domain expertise in what you're doing, or connections to the potential next set of people you need to find, whether that's a pilot or a beta user or a client, or it could be that next set of funding. So you have to actually determine who your partners will be
Sure.
carefully.
And how are you guys able to do that?
Again, it's months of long. It takes a long time, and you have to absolutely talk to everyone you can find to determine just how to make a match.
Okay.
And there's no formula.
Yeah.
Like I know it's a common question, and we're asked all the time because it's again second time, and I've heard you ask it before on other shows.
Yeah.
But if there was a formula, it'd be a lot easier.
Sure.
But there never is, and like things like this help.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like the G10s and all that, they can help if they can. But it's all about again what Ben's saying. You can have the greatest product in the world, but if you have like someone that's not a personality behind it or people, then you're not going to get anywhere. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Sure. So a lot of handshakes, a lot of like giving the same pitch over and over and over to everybody that you're meeting. Yeah.
And you get constant feedback, and it's from that feedback, the questions that they ask of you, that you then refine to your position.
Right.
A lot of the guys you're talking to have deep domain expertise, lots of experience in general.
Right.
So when they start asking you about something and you realize you hadn't thought that through,
Right.
I mean, you have to go and think that part through.
Sure.
And
Okay, thanks very much. I have to go now.
Yeah. I prefer. I like when people say, "Yeah, you guys are doing great stuff. Whatever, the tech is wicked."
Yeah.
I'd prefer when people are like, "You guys are way off," or
Right.
or something's wrong, or your pitch sucks.
Right.
Because it actually is more valuable.
Yeah,
Because
you
I
can
can
learn from it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And if you don't. If you're blinded and you go one way, or you take one person's advice, then you're not going to succeed. You have to take everyone's and then make your own decision as well.
So can we say the takeaway from this is to say, like, talk to like as many people as you can about what you're doing, get as much feedback as you can, and network with as many people as you can.
Yeah.
So you can
But-
get connected to the right people.
But
and get
through
the
that
advice,
process,
right?
you're all the time you're sharpening your focus on the right money, because it's
Right.
not just sort of getting a bigger funnel to talk to enough people. It's getting that iterative process of this is the right person and the right money to talk to, because you have to have that
Sure.
passion, right, of the investor too. I think.
I just imagine there's a lot of people who are doing startups who spend a lot of time like kind of writing code in the basement and trying to get a product up to speed and not thinking so much about
I need to go to Hacker Nest tonight.
Yeah, going out to networking events, or having these conversations with people, or I've got to keep my thing a secret, because if I tell too many people, then it's someone's going to steal it.
And I've done that, like, as a developer when I was young.
Yeah.
I invented so many awesome things in my basement, like literally, and now they're on a zip drive somewhere, and they could have been like a million,
Hopes and
$1 billion idea
Yeah,
because I
sure.
didn't go to that meeting.
Right.
That thing is now,
Yeah.
vaporware,
Right.
whatever. But it's key. You get the most beneficial part is not work hours.
Right.
It's after work hours for
Right,
sure.
right.
From 5 till 1 in the morning when you're hanging out on Friday with these guys,
Sure.
and they think you're one of them.
Sure.
That's where you make the best.
one
connection.
of the things you'll notice if you talk to Jimmy
Yeah.
and he doesn't invest in you, or he can't help you,
Then
most
Jimmy's a
certainly,
real stupid head.
but most certainly he'll say, well, I'm going to hook you up with Steve over here.
Right.
I
They'll
like Steve.
always
Steve
pass you
sounds
on to somebody else if they have someone in their network that
Is more suited for your
exactly.
what
So
you're doing, yeah.
you're never wasting your time.
Yeah. Every conversation is a potential connection to somebody else who can help, right?
And
I
you-
love it on Dragon's Den when they smell a good deal and it flips from them pitching to the dragons pitching themselves. Like, I have the connections at QVC
Yeah,
and
true.
Mr. Wonderful's talk.
But sometimes you got like, you might talk. We talk to people that they don't know the industry, so they don't want to be involved. Like Ben said, they'll tell us about something, but it also flips. So I talk to this guy. I don't want to always use these guys for their connections. I want to drop them something too in return, right?
Yeah.
So that I'm definitely connected to people that they don't know and
Right.
they maybe should know. So I'll just all it takes is an email and
Yeah.
this is this and that.
Yeah.
And when you're pitching, young entrepreneurs often think it's their job to convince the angel or the VC, which is true. But you have to use that opportunity to make that guy pitch himself to you as
Right.
well.
Right.
So why, should I pick you as an investor? Is
Ooh,
the
old
flip
Cadillac,
side.
the old
Right.
takeaway.
But again,
Can't afford
right?
the
But it's
Cadillac,
true.
sir.
It's true.
What?
Yeah.
Give me two of them.
And it's hard to do,
yeah.
right? Because you're so desperate for the money.
Sure.
To
Yeah.
be honest. Right?
Fair enough.
That's
Silicon
really
Valley is actually quite accurate. The first like 4 or 5 episodes.
Yeah, yeah.
And how they're titled, like that's the order that
Yeah.
we've done this twice or even more.
Yeah.
That's the order that things happen. And I know they put a funny spin on it, but you'd be surprised how accurate that is.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
funny.
it's
It's
awesome.
insane how much I've learned too about like real life startup wisdom from like what's essentially a sitcom about startups,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, they
Watching
Startup
that show.
sarcasm at its
Yeah.
finest.
I watched an episode of it last night, actually.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not totally caught up in the middle of season 2, but yeah, very good show.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah,
Time
no,
for a
of
binge
course.
weekend, my friend.
One of these days, absolutely. Listen, guys, we're already at 50 minutes here, and we haven't done the
What's that?
we haven't done the lightning / thunder round. I was so tempted just to let that hang and let the awkwardness drag out, but
It was so
anyway.
sunny out earlier too.
It was. So we're gonna just throw out a bunch of questions at you guys. They're not hard questions. If you've listened to our other podcast, then you've heard this type of thing before, and see what you say.
There you go.
And yeah, maybe I'll go first.
Sure.
This time I usually go
Yeah,
first.
go ahead.
All right. Let me ask you guys this: what is the thing that makes you jump out of bed in the morning because you're so excited to get up and do it?
The code works.
Said the financial guy. That's awesome.
Every morning you wake up and you think the code still works. I'm getting
right,
out
that's
there.
right.
Okay, good.
So you wake up to go high five Harry. That's awesome.
The lights are on at the building.
All right.
We're
the
making
finance
money,
guy.
so you guys are flipped. You're
Yeah,
happy about the
exactly.
finances, and he's happy about the tech. That's
No, you got to be honest. You got to love this stuff, and
Yeah.
if you don't, then you won't succeed. So you got. It's hard to answer that question, but we love doing it.
Yeah.
That's what, and we're up at 6 o'clock. We call each other,
Right.
whatever, 7. Come for a coffee, whatever. Come to the office, and then even after 5,
Yeah.
we go for
Still
a beer or
doing it.
whatever, right? So, and then it's not just social.
Yes.
You're making business decisions, stuff like that. That stuff excites me. That's what gets me up in the morning.
Sure.
Yeah, like is it
Awesome.
going to be Guinness or Canadian? After 5 o'clock.
Yeah, well, 11:30.
You know,
Yeah, of course.
some very serious business decisions. Right. Made.
Good.
Ben, you've spoken a couple times about your frustration with Google, and you talked about some profanity. And I'm dying to hear you swear. Because I think you would be a really good sailor. So can you
get
rip off a couple not suitable for works for us?
Children, cover your ears if you're underage.
Unfucking believable. He's making me swear on a podcast.
A horrible question.
We're just
That's really
looking
well
for
done.
clips we can take out of context and use for our own nefarious purposes later, actually. So.
Harry, do you got anything too? You got,
No,
got
I
any
don't
sailor
fucking
in you?
swear ever.
Hey, you know what we never got into them was a sound effect. Have we been asking people for sound effects?
Yeah, how about a sound effect? too?
This will be my question.
Oh,
what's
God.
what's a sound effect that you guys can do?
Dope.
That's a sound effect? I don't
Or an
know.
imitation? Or
I don't have any of that stuff, actually.
No,
I'm just
no?
a nerdy developer.
Ah, fair enough. Even nerdy developers get bored sometimes and start making noises.
I
no?
can't make those sound
In the
effects here.
shower, no.
Harry's more individual comedy with the white shorts and the coffee stain right in the front.
Right.
Right?
So that's going to last for the whole day, I believe.
fair enough.
Yeah,
Fair
he's going
enough.
to get some legs out of that.
That's a good stain.
That's well placed.
Excellent.
We had, actually, it's funny. We keep shirts in our cars,
Oh, right.
like extra shirts, because Ben's the most spilly, I would say.
Oh, for the spill. I was thinking like in case you work late, you don't have time to go home and get
Oh,
changed.
yeah, no, I don't care about that. Just go how I
It's
am.
the spill factor.
Yep. Now I got Ben spilling and swearing in my head. It's fun.
Splash.
So, you
That's
guys,
my sound
with your
effect.
second startup, here's a question for you. A lot of success, a lot of green lights, a lot of open doors. Got some money fairly successfully early. What's been a hurdle for you? Have you had any pivots, or you had anything that went wrong at all, other than that coffee spill? The first thing that's happened.
Right.
From a technology perspective, that's, a constant iteration, a constant solving of problems, right? So until you overcome certain big hurdles that you're not sure of before you start, that can make or break you. So it's always a good thing to overcome one of those big hurdles. Let's say you solve something and now okay, it is scalable, right? That's a big thing to
Sure.
discover or to confirm, right? So the tech is always, a potential red light.
Right.
Right.
That always has to be dealt with.
It's not, I know we are making it sound simple, but it's not. It's like a lot of long hours, 80-hour weeks.
Sure.
And so it's not we have this experience, but we're still learning everything every day, just as much as a small startup. Or not that we're not small, but as a beginner startup. So, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're still getting your uniform dirty?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Without question.
Yeah.
Tons to learn, for sure.
Cool.
We talked about being acquired in the past. So let's say that your company does get acquired for, a big chunk of money at some point in the future.
$1 billion.
$1 billion.
I'm in.
What is it that you guys do? What's your first purchase you're going to make with your cash out?
I don't know. Food.
Raspberry cake.
Yeah, raspberry cake.
Raspberry cake.
Oh, we'll start another one in 2 days.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Not bad. Yes. same
No,
answer for
I mean,
Rodney, yeah.
I wouldn't. I would have to do the next thing.
Yeah.
I mean, too many exciting things to tackle. It would be
Awesome.
easier to tackle them though.
Yeah. Well, you'd have some money that you could self-finance some of it, maybe.
Yeah.
In that case,
Exactly.
too, right? If you wanted to, but yeah. Stephen?
I want to be really uncomfortable. Ben, you have to fire Harry. Why are you doing that?
Hell
And then
yeah.
Harry, you get to try too.
sure.
Why are you guys breaking up? What's the matter? Why would you ever conceive of that happening? What's your weakness? Got any kryptonite?
Look,
Actually, hang on. I think I know
Ben's
where you're going with
answering
this.
questions.
No, I think I know where you're going with this.
Yeah.
It's a good point. So on our business cards, we specifically, the founding group, have no titles because the point is we fill roles.
Yeah.
And it might be for now, you're filling the CTO role or the CEO role, but as the company goes from A to B to C and scales, there'll be a point where your experience doesn't expand or accelerate as fast or as is required, and you'd be better off bringing somebody in right from the outside. And so we've intentionally done that so that I don't have to fire Harry or he doesn't have to fire me from a particular position.
So you guys have set it up to evolve anyway.
That's
really
well,
cool.
like as
Yeah.
you know, I mean, we can only grow companies to XYZ in our previous history.
Yep.
But we want to go to the next level, and we know there's guys out there that can do that. So
Right.
that Ben stole my answer that I wanted to
I
use
know,
the
I
business
knew
card
what he
when
was
he's like,
gonna
That's some good synergy. You got the telepathic connection.
Yeah, totally.
That's great. And actually, Anthony from Communitech, Reinhardt, just interviewed Dan Latondra from Igloo, and Dan talked about the evolution he's had as a CEO
Right.
and how that's exactly right. Like things change, and I might be a great CEO for a small company, but there's a better guy to come in. Like if Jerry Rice is out there, he needs to be catching the ball right now.
Yeah,
You know, so that's a great ego place to get to. I hope I can stay humble like that when I'm making my Jerry Rice
Yeah.
catches.
yeah, sure.
And I mean, the things, say, I like doing, I can tell you they stop when I have to put on a suit and tie and go to a meeting about a meeting to schedule the next meeting.
Right.
So there's a point where a company grows, and I already know that at that point I'm not the right guy
Right.
for that environment.
Sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
God damn it.
Makes sense. What? Can you guys? This is one that we like to ask other guests too. Give one piece of advice for new startups in 5 words or less. Whoever wants to go first.
Piece of advice, 5 words or less. It's a lot of hard work.
It's a lot of hard work. I guess if you count a lot
It's
as
a-
one word.
and it's a-
yeah,
it's a-
it's. We'll let you pass on that one.
But why is that? That's not advice, Ben.
No, that's not
just
advice.
like
That's just a
telling them
fact.
It's a
stuff.
warning.
Yes.
Turn back now. Last
I guess
chance
it
for
would be-
gas.
Yeah.
You could say work
Work hard.
hard, or you
Work
have
hard.
to work hard.
Okay. You have to work hard.
There you go.
We can do it like
Yeah,
that.
so you can't just
It's
come
a-
up with a cool idea and have
No.
people rally behind you. You got to really do some.
Or if you
Heavy lifting.
look at a successful company and you think they came out of nowhere and it was all really quick.
Yeah.
What you are probably not aware of is the amount of time and effort that went into it to get that to happen.
Sure,
Right.
sure.
So it can be misleading when someone just appears out of nowhere and they're wildly successful, or the company's exponentially growing.
Sure.
It's all the work that was done previous to that. That's kind of
and
hidden.
they could have 10 years of experience informing, what they're doing now too, that you don't see when they
Yeah.
just explode on the scene,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
You hear about
I'd-
that in the music industry a lot. Like, where did this person come from? They're awesome. They just are new. And they're like, no, they've been a musician for 15 years.
They've been playing
Yeah.
bars for 15
Yeah,
years, and now
and
they got a
finally just
contract.
got it
Yeah.
on, yeah.
Sorry. You going to say something here? Yeah.
Go with your gut would be a good one.
Go with your gut. All right. That
And,
works.
Yeah,
you know,
you got it, the word.
don't always, just because someone is either older or has more money than you or whatever, you don't always have to take their advice if you don't believe that's what you need or want to do.
Sure.
So just because they say, I started this company and it was successful, you should do it this way, you don't have to do that. It's
Sure.
your company.
Awesome.
do what you want to do with it.
Cool. So
Sounds
along
good.
those lines of the humility of being able to step aside as a CTO or a CFO or a CTO or whatever when the opportunity has eclipsed you, let's bring some new people onto the team. Let's bring 3 superstars on. Who do you want to hire? Who do you need to hire? And do you have anybody specific in mind? Like we want Jim Basili to be our mentor, or
You don't have to use him.
No, I like Jim
So whatever
Basili.
you like. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good
I haven't
question.
met Jim. I just threw that out there. I don't know.
Yeah. Let's narrow it and say like the next 3. Your next
Yeah,
3
your next
hires.
3 employees.
Who are
So.
they going to?
Sure. Well, we have our roadmap, obviously, that fits within the budget that we have.
Sure.
So
sure.
we have
So
an
these
idea.
are on me. So
Right.
these are sort of outside that budget.
Sure.
So
Bill Gates,
this is almost like a
Peter
venture
Thiel.
capitalist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Bill Gates,
like, what would
Peter
you do with
Thiel,
those
yeah.
big rock stars? Like, are you ready for that? Where would you put them?
We always say we got to go to the next meeting.
Right.
So whoever, it's not necessarily someone that we would hire, but it would be great. If they can get us to the next door that opens up to get us to the next meeting, then
Yeah.
that would be perfectly fine
Sure.
to do for sure.
So you're almost a center of influence is what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense.
So there's one employee, a center of influence. Do you need another developer? Do you need a marketing guy? You need a salesperson? Do you need an accountant?
Absolutely no. I mean, we need to expand the engineering team. So I think we've got plans for 2 more developers in the next 3 months.
Okay.
Um,
cool.
That at this stage is one of the major things we need to do.
Something
then-
for any developers who are listening to keep in mind.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, yeah,
Their
without
interest.
question.
Yeah.
What's your stack like?
We're Microsoft Shop,
Mm-hmm.
and we're cloud based on Amazon.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're in C#. Basically, everything you listed for Igloo there. That's what we do. I'd say almost 99%.
Plus
Other
the
than
Nerf.
Nerf balls, whatever. I'll have to Google that.
Sure.
But we also want to be. We've designed our whole system to grow.
Right.
So we've made sure that the Microsoft is the right platform, and then the servers are important as well.
Sure.
Whether we're using Azure or EC2, we made sure that it works on all of these things.
Sure.
So, but
Awesome.
right now, Microsoft Shop for sure.
Awesome.
Gotcha. Well, I think we should throw out the bonus question before we wrap up here, guys. Toilet paper, fold or scrunch?
Scrunch.
Scrunch. Really?
It is a
Both
stupid
scrunch?
question. Like, who would fold?
Yeah,
I can't.
That's a weird
I'm
question.
flabbergasted that we have 2 scrunchers in the room, 3 scrunchers in the room.
Thank you.
That's
But how do you? Okay.
Yeah, we sometimes when we go off the air, we end with this question, right? So when we go off the air, I often worry that we're going to continue to talk about this. But
What
we
if I
don't,
said seashells?
Luckily,
Or something?
as long as you don't say air dry, we're good. So,
that was the bidet option. We had never thrown it in there, but
yeah,
I'm sure
not many
there are some
Europeans
people-
on the.
No, it's true. It's true. All right. Well, before we wrap things up, guys, where can we find you online if we want to track with your story and see where things go next? You got some social media links?
Absolutely.
And stuff?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, just silqe.com, silqe.com.
Right.
It has all our LinkedIn and our Twitter and stuff like that on there. So
Okay.
you can find us pretty easily.
Are you guys on Facebook too?
Yeah. Our
Yeah.
company is.
Oh,
I'm
company.
not personally.
No. Sure. It's all good.
Harry.escort.
Cool. So, and we'll put some links to those destinations so people can follow you and like you and
That'd
all
be
that
great.
stuff if they
Yep.
want to. Yeah, great.
And any male prostitutes with lots of hair on them?
Yeah.
Please drop your resume.
Wow, I wish I never said that.
Harry's dot escort.
That'll change the corporate culture.
Dot XYZ.
I love it when we can end on the high note.
Oh, and folder scrunch isn't a hideout?
Folder scrunch, it's all part of my data collection, man.
That's
There's
true.
There's a bigger plan.
Yeah, we
in
need
the
to talk
works.
to these guys about aggregating that data.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, listen, let's wrap things up today, guys. A special thanks to our guests, Mr. Harry Scanlan and Ben Bittrolff, coming in from Silqe for talking to us about what you guys are doing. Thanks for coming on the show, guys.
Cheers. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
For having
Yeah,
us.
our pleasure. And thank you to the Accelerator Center for letting us make use of this office space. And thank you to the team that's across the divider over there for not being too
Listening to
disturbed by us talking this whole time.
Ben's profanity.
That's right. And thank you to you, our listeners, for joining us on another episode of TSP Weekly. Please feel free to send us your comments, questions, criticisms, feedback. Our email address is feedback@tspweekly.com, or you can send us a message on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @TSPWeekly. So for myself, Darren Conley, my co-host Stephen Campbell,
The Walrus.
and our guests, Harry Scanlan,
Hello.
and Ben Bittrolff from
Oh, we
Silqe.
gotta hold
Yes?
on. We gotta thank our team too.
Oh,
we
yeah.
couldn't
Go
get
for it.
here
Throw it out.
without our Silqe team. So Andrew Simpson, Ryan Fife, Dave Nieder, they're sitting right across. That's
are
why
they?
I'm pointing over
they're
there.
Right over there. Okay,
Yeah.
Do
perfect.
they have any good nicknames? Speed,
Speedy,
Joey.
I don't sure.
All right,
Fife.
so now you got some. Now you have the afternoon.
They will today.
exactly.
Ask them. They're right there.
Fair enough. Thanks, guys.
No.
They're
too
embarrassed.
busy being hard at work. No, it's great. Thanks, guys. Thank you all for joining us today, and we'll see you all next week.